Hi, and welcome to Introduction to 3D Modeling using Fusion 360. So in this lesson, this will be lesson 1, and in this lesson I will be going over the main interfaces, several different functions of each feature, and basically how to 3D model itself. So I'll be following along this document. I'll also be covering a lot of things that aren't in this document, so it might be helpful for you to watch the whole video. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing you need to know about 3D modeling is the way it works is, let's say you wanted to make a cube. So you'd think about how a cube would be made. So we would draw a square. I know that's not a square, but just for demonstration. So we draw a square, and then we pull that square up into the third dimension, and that's how you get a cube. Very, very simple. So I'll show you how to do that real quick, and I'll explain everything that I do. Okay, so in order to draw the 2D image, so when you do a 3D model, you need a 2D sketch, which is the square that I did earlier. So every time you want to have something in 3D, you have to sketch it first. So on the top left, under the solid tab, there's a create sketch button. So once we click that, it'll show you the 3 planes, and basically it's just asking you which face do you want to sketch on. Usually I just click the bottom one. It's really not a big deal which one you select, because you can always change it later. So I'm just going to select the bottom plane, and then it'll automatically change my camera to face straight down onto it. So when you sketch, you use these tools on the top left here. They're called entities. So whenever you sketch a line, you're creating an entity. So for the line tool, I'm just going to click the line tool here. Let's just make some shapes. So you click, release the mouse, and then you move the cursor around, and you notice how there are these there's a length on the side that's changing. So it tells you how much or how long the line is. You can also, while it's highlighted, you can type in a number too. So if I want this to be 15 millimeters, I just type in 15, click enter. So I'm just gonna make some shape here using the line tool. And notice how I closed this sketch. I made a loop. And when you close a sketch, it will turn blue. The inside will turn blue. So right now it's open. And watch what happens when I close the sketch. It's like a really light shade of blue. And basically, if you're going to be extruding anything, you have to have a closed loop. So now that I have a closed loop, I'm going to go to the solid tab, and I'm going to click extrude. And on the right side over here, it will ask you what is required before you extrude. So first it's asking for the profile. The profile is the sketch that we made earlier. So this is a sketch that we made earlier. It's asking you, what do you want to extrude? So I'm just going to click on this. It'll highlight blue. Sometimes if you have just one profile, it'll automatically select it for you. So just make sure it's highlighted blue. That's how you know it's selected. So I'm just going to select that. And now you'll see this arrow. I can drag this arrow up and down, and you see how it's turning 3D. And on the right side, you can see 25 millimeters, 30 millimeters, 35. So you can drag it to whatever height you want, or you can type it in. So let's do 17, just a random number, and you click enter. Let's do that again. Extrude 17. And click OK on the right side. So now we have, I guess, an L, like a block letter L. If you wanted to change, if you wanted to make some changes to the sketch or to the height, on the bottom left here, you can see these two operations. So this bottom part here is called your history, which is, you know, the history of your operations. So let's say I wanted to change how high I extruded this. So we can go to the history here, and when we did that, the function was extruding it, right? So if we hover over this, extrude 1, and we right click, we can do edit feature, and what we just did earlier has come back up, and now we can change it. Let's say 17 to maybe 30, and you click OK, and it's changed. Now if you want to modify the shape itself, you go to the sketch on the history on the bottom left, right click, and edit sketch. Now when you have a sketch, for the most part you can drag these points or drag the lines. You can change these dimensions. Now you might be wondering, like, okay, what if I want this line here to be a certain distance? So now we have this tool on the top left called sketch dimensions. This only works for sketches. So we click on that, and then we click on the line, and basically it tells you what length that line is, but we can also change it. So right now it's 47.6, and let's just say we want it to be 40. You click enter, and it'll shrink it down for us. And on the right side, let's click finish sketch, and then our cube or our 3D object is updated. Okay. So now that we have a 3D object, every time you make a 3D object that's a single body, it's called a body. Who knew? So on the left side here, it's called the browser, and basically it has all these different items of your work that you're doing. So you can see here, there's a bodies drop down menu. So we click that, and this is called body 1. It also has your sketches saved too, but you can see the eyeball, it's hidden right now. So if we unhide it, we can see the sketch that we did earlier in the blue lines. Usually it's hidden after you do an extrusion, just so it's neater. So we're just going to keep that off, but just so you know it's there in case you ever need to change it. So that's a body. So let's say we happen to, well, okay, so let's say we wanted another, let's say we wanted like a like a circle cut out of this. Well, the way we do that is, so you know how we clicked create sketch earlier and it's asked us to select 3 planes? Well, you're also able to select a plane on the 3D objects, the existing 3D objects. So let's say we want a hole that goes from the top to the bottom. So we're just going to click on this face right here, sketch on that face. We're going to use, let's do a circular hole. So on the circle tool on the top left, click on that. Now you'll see on the right side there's a bunch of different options. Basically it's just asking you for the reference, the type of circle you're going to make using certain reference points. So the center diameter circle is basically, you click, the first click you make is where the center of the circle is, and then the second click you make is the radius. The 2-point circle is, the first click you make is one side of the circle, and the second point you make is the outer side or other side. But we're just going to stick to center diameter circle, it's easier. So I'm just going to choose some arbitrary point here, click, and then click again. So now we made a circle on the plane that we chose earlier. And by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, but on the bottom here, you have the orbit tool. You click that and you can orbit around. And you have the pan tool, panning around. So these are on the bottom center. Okay. Additionally, you can also hold Shift on your keyboard and click your scroll wheel. So Shift, click your scroll wheel and drag around. That's a quicker and easier way to orbit around. You can also, so on the top right here, it's called the view cube, and you can also click that and drag it around. If you notice on the top right, and you notice how it says top, front, right. So I can click on top and it'll snap to the top view. If I click this one, it'll show at a 45-degree angle, front view, right view, and back view. So just useful. It's just a useful thing to keep in mind. Okay, so back to the circle. We want to cut a hole now. So extrusion can go both ways. It can go 2 different ways. So it can either add or you can subtract. So if we click on extrude, and it's asking for us to select our profile, so we're going to select the inner part. Now on the right side, you'll see this operation option here. So if I click on that, there's join, cut, intersect, new body, and new component. So we're going to use the cut. So if we click cut and then we drag into the object, and then you see how it's red, that means that part will be cut out. You click OK, and now we have a hole there. Some other operations there are, I'll show you. You see how now it's giving me an error because I pulled this thing out of the solid, and it has nothing to cut, so it's giving me an error. So if I click join, it will fuse these 2 parts together. So let's just do that real quick. I click join, and you notice how on the left side it's one body, right? And if we go back, edit feature, let's see what happens when we do new body instead of join. So click new body, click OK. And now you see on the left there's two bodies. So body 2 and body 1. Yeah. Body 1 or body 2 and body 1. So now they're two separate objects. And this is useful for when you're making things that have different parts, you know. So if you're doing like an assembly of stuff, you just make sure you have them as separate bodies. And that way, when you save as a export as an STL file for 3D printing, you can select whatever body you want separately. So if I want to save body 2, just go to that one, right click, save as STL, or body 2 or body 1, save as STL. So now you can separate them. Now you can do them separately. So I think that's, for the most part, the very basics of Fusion. In the next lesson, we'll do some exercises to help you guys out, and we'll go over some more advanced features of Fusion.